Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to Misinformation in Science and Society. Here to listen, not to judge. I'm your host Annie, and today with us we have Ken Boyd. Okay, hi. Could you please introduce yourself a little bit and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ken Boyd. I'm the Digital Media Literacy Project Manager at Civics. Civics is a Canadian charity. And what we do is we create experiential learning programs that help build the skills and habits of citizenship among youth. So what I do at this organization is I research and develop programming on a few projects. I've got two main projects right now. The
Mm-hmm.
first is our digital media literacy project, which you are probably familiar with. That's how you found me, which is Control F. And we also have another project that I work on, which is called Polytalks. This is about creating constructive classroom discussion. So I also do a lot of outreach in the form of teacher training and student workshops as well to hopefully help students better evaluate online information.
Yeah, for sure. So why did you choose this career initially, and what's your favorite part of doing what you do?
Yeah, I guess I came to this career from a little bit of an odd direction. So I did a PhD in philosophy, and after that, I started to work on projects about how we seek out and interpret information online. And I was doing this really at the heart of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of concern about the kinds of misinformation and disinformation that was being spread around. I mean, there's still a lot of concern about that kind of stuff around COVID-19, around vaccination, even years later. So I guess I chose this career that I'm doing now because it really allows me to work on problems that I think are interesting, problems that I think are important, these problems of trying to combat that online misinformation and disinformation. And I guess the thing that I like most about my job is, well, I guess a few things. I really like keeping up on the latest research to figure out how one another. I think that stuff is really interesting and really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like creating lessons and activities for students. I like sort of taking some of that complex stuff in the research that scientists are doing, that academics are doing, and try
Yeah,
to translate that into materials that students can understand so that they can keep on top of what's going on in that stuff as well.
yeah, absolutely. That sounds really interesting. Um, so why do you think truth is so important, and why do you think misinformation is such a big issue, especially right now?
Yeah, so uh, I mean, I think that truth is so important because at at a basic sort of fundamental level, I think we're all guided by pursuit of the truth. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we don't always agree about what the truth is, and we don't always agree about what the best way to pursue the truth is.
Yeah.
But we all think that there are important truths that are out there to discover, and we want to discover them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really why truth is so important. Why is misinformation such a big issue? I don't know if there's a single answer to that question. I think there's a lot of factors that surround that, but something that I think is a big part of the problem is just how much information is out there. I mean, especially online, when you just come across so much stuff. I mean, every minute of every day, people are putting new information out there on the internet.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard to sift through all of that information and pick out the stuff that's good, find the reliable sources, find the ones that are trustworthy among
Mhm.
all the bad ones. So I think, there's a lot of factors here, but I think one of them is just quantity. There's just a lot of information out there that makes it harder to find the good information among the less good information. That makes misinformation a big problem.
That makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Um, so I know you work with misinformation, really closely with misinformation, disinformation. So, what are some ways that people try to avoid or tackle misinformation? Um, yeah, and if you could go into more detail about what you do specifically, maybe that would be great.
Yeah. So our main program that we have for helping students tackle misinformation, that's our Control F program. Basically, what we teach is we teach what we call lateral reading. So the
Mhm.
idea is that when you are presented with some information that you come across online, the first thing you want to do is you want to get away from whatever page or post or app or whatever you're on that you're finding this information. Do some research about what it is that you're reading, maybe what the source is, or are other people saying the same thing about the claim that you're reading,
Mhm.
and then evaluate whether you should go back and engage deeply with that information, whether you should read more on a website, whether you should share it, whether you should engage with it in some other kinds of form. We
Okay.
have a few skills in the Control F program, so we get students to investigate sources that they're unfamiliar with, to check claims that they may not have heard before, that may seem strange or suspicious, and to trace information to make sure that information that they're being presented is really sort of where it originated from. We know that information gets posted and reposted and shared and reshared, and sometimes it changes as it gets passed around the internet. We want to try to find out where it came from. Those
Mhm.
are sort of our three core skills. And we think that it's, if that sounds sort of simple, it's because, it is simple and it's sort of meant to be simple because we know that people aren't going to take a lot of time
Mhm.
to do a lot of really hard work when they come across new information. We want skills to be simple, we want them to be easy to develop habits, right?
Yeah.
So that it just becomes a habit. When you see something new, you do some research about it, and then you go back and decide if you want to engage with it any further. That's sort of our main program right now. We know that's not the full solution to all of the
Mhm.
problems of misinformation online, but we think it's a pretty good start to help students figure out what the good stuff is out there online.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talk about like students. What would you say is like your like target audience, I guess? Like, would it be like teenagers? Would it be like all ages, like students working on like in school? Like, what's like the target audience, I guess?
Yeah. Our target audience in terms of age range is grade 7 on the low end and grade 12 on the higher end. So we mostly work with teachers who teach in high schools and in middle school. So usually what we do is we create these materials for teachers to then bring into their classrooms. So a lot of what I do is I take teachers through a tour of the materials, teach them how to use it, and then they can go on and teach teenagers and students in middle schools as well.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so what do you think the worst type of misinformation is? Like, misinformation about what?
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst kind of misinformation is the misinformation that can have real world harmful consequences.
Hmm.
So some kinds of misinformation are basically just harmless. We have an example where a French scientist made a tweet and he posted this picture that he thought was a new high resolution image of a star that
Uh-huh.
was taken by a new space telescope, and he was like, look how amazing this is, and we can peer into the cosmos and stuff like this. And it turns out that it wasn't a picture of a star; it was a picture of a slice of salami, and he just got it wrong.
Uh-huh.
And that's sort of funny, but it's still misinformation, right? It's false information that got spread around, and people believed him because he was a scientist, and he took responsibility and you know
Yeah.
corrected his mistake. And that's kind of fun and harmless, but misinformation about things like vaccinations, these can have real consequences that can lead to harm. I think there's misinformation that can encourage fear and hatred. I think that's really bad misinformation as well. We see um, there's a myth that keeps getting circulated. Maybe this is something that you've seen as well. It's about kids in schools who they identify as animals, and so they demand that there's a litter box in their school instead of a regular bathroom.
Mm.
And this is a story that gets spread around. It's completely fake. This has not happened. But people spread it around to sort of stir up fear and
Mm.
hatred about legitimate issues, about gender identity. And I think that's a really dangerous kind of misinformation as well. This kind of information that's false or misleading, and that encourages this kind of fear and hatred of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I like the examples that you provided. That was really, um, yeah. So next question. I know like we kind of you kind of touched on it, but what do you think about like the invention of technology and its impact on misinformation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, technology is it moves very quickly. There's lots of new kinds of social media platforms, lots of new kinds of programs and apps that uh, can be hard to keep up on where the information is going and where the misinformation is being located. There's been some new developments, and this is maybe something you've seen as well, around things like AI chatbots. This is sort
Mm-hmm.
of a new thing that people are very excited about. And we've seen already the opportunities here, but also the opportunities that they can create for misinformation. So there was recently a website had to make an apology because they had been writing articles on their website using these artificial intelligence bots, and they
Mm-hmm.
were full of mistakes. And the worry here is that this is a very easy way to generate content online, but people, they care about what's true, and AI chatbots don't, right? They
Mm-hmm.
just sort of follow their instructions and then put a bunch of content out there.
Yeah.
So, this is one of these brand new bits of technology where it opens up these new questions about what kind of misinformation could be created, and very, very quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, something like this, even these new developments that a lot of people are excited about, we have to sort of be careful about them and make sure that we pay attention to them and see what are the sort of opportunities here for good things, but also what might be some of the downsides of these new kinds of technologies as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. My friend like sent me like a short video that's supposed to be like funny, and it's like an AI about like writing something, but because they take in like the information you give them, or like an article, but if there's misinformation in the article, they just like use that, and they don't, because they don't actually know what's right or wrong. So then they just like totally wrote that, and like it just sounds like the AI is like making that up, but like it's just like it's very so yeah, I can see like um that point of view. Yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, I think that'll be all the questions on misinformation. So just for fun, what like inspires you? Like, is there like a book, like a person, an idea? Like, what inspires you, I guess?
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess in general, what inspires me is I mentioned I when I went to school at university, I studied philosophy. So I'm really inspired by those really big questions that people have been debating about and thinking about for many, many years that will never come to any answers about definitively.
Mhm.
I really like those big, intractable questions, the ones that keep you up at night. Those are the kinds of things I think that really inspire me. And I think I'm very, very curious. So I want to know everything. I want to know everything about everything. And so what I like sort of about my job as well is I get to learn a lot, right? I do a lot of research. I learn a lot of new things. I love that. I always want to learn more about the world and what's going on there. That's, I guess, my biggest inspiration.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's great. Um, and do you have any like advice for people, especially teens? It can be like about information, or just like in general.
Yeah, maybe I'll stick to just the about information. I think when it comes to dealing with information that you come across online, I guess my biggest piece of advice is just to slow down. I
Mm,
think that we get so much information so quickly. Uh, you go on your phone, you go on your computer, you go on whatever, it's brand new stuff constantly coming at you. And it just feels sometimes like it's just a mile a minute. There's just so much stuff happening so quickly. And I
Mhm.
think just a sort of general sense of, take a deep breath, slow down, take a moment to pause, consider what you're looking at, right? It's easy to get caught up in something that seems exciting or makes you mad or makes you, happy or sad or something like that. But
Mhm.
just sort of slowing it down and, taking that a little bit of time to do a little bit of thinking first, maybe just do a little reflecting. And
Yeah.
then, is this something I want to share? Is this something I want to look into further?
Mhm.
Yeah, just slowing down a bit, I guess, taking a little bit of time. Don't worry about missing out on information that's coming in. It'll always be there. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's, I guess, my biggest bit of advice there.
Yeah. I think, for example, like short video apps like TikToks, I feel like I don't use it anymore, but like when I used to use it, I feel like I just see people like talk about stuff like one video after another. And as long as it sounds like somewhat convincing or like right, I don't actually like look up like if it's actually right. And like one time I just like believed something for like years, and then like someone was talking to me and I was like, no, that's like not right. And then they were like, and then so I had to like Google it, and like I just believed the wrong thing for like a long time just because like I was like consuming information like really quickly. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. And it's, we all do this, right? We're none of us are perfect with this. We'll all see that video and we'll say, oh yeah, I know that seems right, and I'll just believe it or something, right? Everyone does that. But with,
Yeah.
you mentioned something like TikTok, it's just so much. It's so fast. You go to the
Mm-hmm.
next thing, you go to the next thing. It's easy to not even think about what it is you're really looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So, just taking that to a sort of quick moment to just take a second, think about what it is, what am I actually really looking at there. I think that could really help. You don't have to do it all the time, don't have to do it 100% of the time. We're not perfect, but just something always just to keep in mind.
For sure, for sure. All right, so that'll be it for today. Thank you so much again for being here. It was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, likewise, thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, thank you.